Hello, amazing projectors, and welcome to another episode of the Projector Movement Podcast. My name is Amy. I'm a 3/5 emotional projector, and today is actually very, very exciting because we have a wonderful special guest on the show. This is our first guest we've had, and how perfect to have none other than the wonderful creator of the Projector Movement, Charlie McGuinness. Charlie is incredibly embodied as a projector, very intuitive. You'll come to learn that he's a splenic projector. He goes into a little bit more about his chart in today's episode. And I've worked with Charlie since about March of this year and have really gotten to know him in this time and to witness how he moves through life and how he honors himself at a deep core level is always, it's so intriguing to me. I love how he chooses to go about his projector life. He really honors his projector essence. And today we learn a bit more about Charlie and a bit more about his journey and when he discovered human design and how the projector movement started from a dream. And it's so wonderful to listen to. So I really hope that you enjoy this episode and soak it all in. There's lots of beautiful wisdom in Charlie's words, and he really does draw you into his world with the way that he speaks and the languaging that he uses. And I love seeing a projector in their uniqueness, in their individualness, and really owning that. So I'm sure that you will love listening to this episode as much as we loved recording it for you. So let's get into it and learn a little bit more about the fabulous creator of the projector movement, Charlie. Well, a big welcome to you, Charlie. Thank you for coming on the podcast. It's so great to have you here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here for the first time. So yes. I don't know exactly what you're going to be asking today, but 2 projectors on a call. I'm sure it's going to be somewhat intriguing. Let's hope so.
Well, yes, 2 projectors on a call. I think that everyone listening in is really going to love this. So what I thought we could do today is just get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, you can get to know about me more, and maybe anyone listening can also get to know a little bit about me as well, and maybe I'll find out a new thing as well about myself. So perfect. Let's do it.
Sounds good. For everyone listening, if you didn't know, I am a 3/5 emotional projector and Charlie is a 3/5 splenic projector. So it's always an interesting conversation, especially with someone that is very intuitive and very in the moment as Charlie is. All right. Can you share a little bit about your human design chart actually with everyone before we kind of get any further?
Okay, where to start? I would say some of the main aspects of my human design chart would be I have 7 open centers. So that has me be very open to my environment and growing up, quite sensitive. And my solar plexus center is totally open. So my emotional center is very open. So that's given me a lot of struggle during my life, but then it's enabled me to come into a lot of wisdom around the emotional body. So that when I look at my chart, those things really jump out. And then, as you already mentioned, I'm a splenic projector, and it's interesting that my main gate, or what some people will call the position of the main gate, the position of the sun, when I was born, is the gate of intuitive clarity, so gate 57. So I apparently do have quite an innate ability to listen to my intuition, being a splenic projector, having 7 open centers, and then at the same time having the most powerful gate being the gate of intuitive clarity. So I guess I'm here to listen to my intuition, to respond to my environment, wait for the right invitations, and then share whatever wisdom comes through for that person in the moment.
That is beautiful. I'm sure that if there are splenic projectors listening to this, I know it's not always easy for these particular authority types to know what that splenic hit feels like. And I know it can be different for everyone, but what does yours feel like?
It's quite different. So sometimes it will come through as over time I've developed a different relationship with this part of my intuition and energy. So now, I guess previously I used to look for signs outside of myself a little bit. I'd be like, oh, looking for, those synchronicities. And I actually read, maybe 7 years ago, I read the Celestine Prophecy, which is a lot about synchronicities. And so I'd be looking for things outside of myself, the things like if you see on the clock 11:11, or if something happens and it's like, oh, wow, that was like really divinely guided. Now it's developed more into an inward process of knowing. So I guess it could be a feeling, but this is also an emotional projector, has those waves of feelings, but a splenic intuitive hit to me does feel like a feeling, but it's a quick response. So it's a very quick feeling, and to me, it feels calm. And maybe beforehand, like, 4 or 5 years ago, it would have felt more like exciting. It would have been like a more rapid burst of energy. But now it's more like a calm knowing that if I follow that, I also will not meet so much resistance externally. So I wait for that movement within my body. That's a feeling that is like a calming knowing. And then I move towards that decision, choice, whatever it is. And often there won't be so much resistance. Whereas before, if I wasn't going with my intuition and I was thinking about things and I was trying to figure things out from my head, there would be a lot of resistance externally, whether it's through people, whether it's through financial things or health things or whatever it is. So once I have started to work with my spleen more, the flow of my life has really improved, and the trust overall within my experience has really improved.
I absolutely love that. And I love that you pointed out about that your mind used to try and take over, because we know our minds are so loud. So it's really, I love hearing that from a splenic projector about what it feels like in the moment, because as an emotional projector, I don't feel that at all, really. So that was so fascinating. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. I'm going to shift gears a little bit. We like to go a little bit deep sometimes. So I'm going to get straight into a deeper question. I would love to know, and I'm sure others would love to know, what were your childhood and teen years like for you?
Okay. So one other thing about my human design chart is I've got one channel, and that's the channel of transformation. So it goes from the root to the splenic center, and this is a very powerful channel that always wants to naturally transform, improve, evolve, expand. So wherever I channel my energy into, there's always this transformational quality that happens. So naturally growing up, this energy, which is a potent root center energy moving into the splenic center, was channeled a lot into sport and was channeled a lot into schoolwork. So I was a bit, I've also got a lot of Capricorn in my astrology. So I would have this very playful side when I was around people my age. Like I had a lot of great friends, and then I would have a very serious side and put a lot of pressure on myself to perform when I was around adults and within school. And I always had this sense that I was very, very, very sensitive and very aware of what others were thinking, feeling, being around me. So I feel like I gave a lot of mental energy to try and fit in, to try and adapt to my environment with my 7 open centers. And that did take a lot of energy out of me. So I did get a lot of allergies, borderline chronic fatigue, was really run down, was really tired a lot of the time. So it was challenging, but it was also beautiful. I had beautiful friends. I was very lucky with my upbringing, but at the same time, internally, there was a lot of unexplained emotions, sensitivity, all these things that it looked like others didn't have so much. So there was challenge around that, and I ended up going to college and majoring in psychology and business. And once again, I just put a lot of effort into things. And from a young age, what I thought like my parents, grandparents wanted me to do. And it was interesting because it's like that is authentic to me. Like it's authentic for me to be very driven and passionate. But at the same time, as I've developed, I've channeled that passion and drive into things that I actually love to do, whether that's running retreats, whether that's working with human design, whether that's working in groups, people, emotionally or with trauma or somatically, or different, plant medicines or different areas of life where I can actually funnel my deep passion and authentic truth into, then having that drive is a real gift. But I was really driving myself in a way that wasn't super authentic and it was burning me out. So yeah, I've always been connected to myself, and I see my human design playing out throughout my life. But as the years have gone on and as I've deconditioned more and more and let go of things that are not me, I've been able to come into a much more authentic expression of my life and live in a way that is deeply fulfilling for me, and move towards success and away from bitterness.
I love that even before you found out about human design, which we'll get into really, really soon, but the fact that you grew up knowing that, okay, I do feel really sensitive, I do feel really different. And then I can imagine that was probably quite difficult as well as a young man growing up and feeling these sensitivities and then kind of battling with your mind as well. And I don't know if your intuition was in play then too, but that must have been such an interesting experience to go through.
Totally. The sensitivity was an interesting one. And I remember there was people, who had a much thicker skin than myself, and definitely felt vulnerable around those people because they could say something or they could feel the sensitivity. And, in that feeling of sensitivity, you can poke people with that sensitivity and it's like, oof. And it was challenging at times. But as I said, luckily I had, an amazing group of friends. And actually probably let me think about it. Probably my closest 4 or 5 friends were all projectors. So it's interesting how we attracted each other. I've got a really good friend who's a mental projector, an emotional projector, a self-projector, another emotional projector. And then there were a few generators in there that I was also really close with. But it was just fascinating that the projectors, I think we all had that level of slight more sensitivity, and we drew each other in, and it just felt really natural around them.
Yeah, just that inner knowing that these just feel like my people. That's always a really beautiful thing to have in life, that's for sure.
Totally.
Yeah. So I'd actually really love to know, when did you discover human design? So I could tell from your first answer that you've been kind of playing around with your splenic intuition for the last 4 or 5 years. But when was the moment you discovered human design?
That would have been around 7 years ago, and I was in Bali. And I was in the north of Bali. A good friend of mine has actually lived there for 7 or 8 years, uh, in a hut, and he lives off the land, climbs coconut trees, grows his own mangoes and papayas, and there's a sacred water that comes out of the mountain that he drinks from. There's a waterfall right next to the ocean. It's quite a quite a unique lifestyle, and I've been there many times and stayed there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month at different times, and often that specific area draws in quite a lot of synchronicities and unique beings. And I think I was fasting at the time for maybe a week or so on water, and a person who was probably a year or two older than me at the time, his name was Jai, and he had this book, and he was just talking about this system, and he was explaining to me different things, and it at the time seemed quite out of my reach, or quite foreign, or quite unique. And since that moment, I just started to dive deeper and deeper and deeper. And since then, I've done different courses. I've worked with, I've learned from people who learned directly from Ra. And at the same time, I've done my own self study. And then the main thing is, like, as a 3-5, learned through my direct experience moving through life, and knowing my chart, and coming and feeling and seeing how that is actually expressing in the world, and then working with lots of people doing the same, and you start to see certain patterns, and certain ways to decondition and heal at quite a depth.
Yeah, human design definitely. Well, it's no secret that we absolutely love it here at the Projector Movement, but it's yeah, it does have that deep healing ability, doesn't it? I think just that pure uniqueness that you get from looking at your own chart and going, whoa, this is literally me. Like, this is a snapshot of the sky when I was born, and this is me. This is why I don't feel like I fit in anywhere, or this is why I feel so different, because I have my own unique blueprint. So I love that you were in such a spiritual place. That guy sounds like he's living the dream, your friend in Bali, by the way. Love that. But sounds like it was such a spiritual encounter, I guess, like perfect place at the perfect time for you to discover what this amazing system does and what it's all about.
Totally. And I think it was probably 3 to 4 years after that, of doing a lot of study and diving deep, I was once again back in Bali. This time I was on an island. It's called the Gili Islands. And I was on, specifically, there's 3 islands, and I was on Gili Air, and it's about an hour boat ride from Bali, close to another island known as Lombok, I think it is, and it's a big one. And I was there with a good friend of mine, one of my best friends, and he is an emotional projector, 5-1 emotional projector, but he doesn't dive into human design so much. But he was a professional sports player, and his body actually was breaking down. As a projector, it's very hard to to stay at that high level when you don't have that sacral center burning, especially at the professional level. So he was sort of moving out of that at the time, and we went to Bali for about a month together, and I was on this island and I had a dream, and the dream was to it was showing me like it's time to start sharing human design with others now. Like you've done enough inward work, study, learning, embodiment, that now is the time to actually begin doing that. And that morning I woke up, I remembered the dream, I walked outside, I made a video about 10 minutes just on the beach there. The video is probably still on my personal YouTube. You know, I have a personal YouTube that I had for many years, and then we have the Projector Movement YouTube now specific to projectors, but I would have put on my personal YouTube, Charlie McGuinness, and then it's a video of me on the beach, probably goes for 5 or 10 minutes, sharing about human design charts and offering small, short readings. And I think in about 2 hours of uploading that, there was, 30, 40, 50, 80 people like coming in, like purchasing those human design readings. And that was definitely my intuition talking through my dreams. And an incarnation cross is like a brief summary of how you move through your like 70 or 80% of your energy, because it takes the 4 main gates and puts it together. And there's 100, 200 plus different incarnation crosses, and mine's the right angle cross of penetration 3. And it literally says in that, I found it pretty funny to read for the first time, but it says you have the ability to listen to hear the voice of God and hear the voice of angels and speak very directly to people in what they need and receive that wisdom at the time. And I felt like at that moment through my dream, I really received something beautiful, because that changed my life. That really opened up certain things in my life and opened up the projector movement, and to be able to support thousands of people and projectors coming into their success and their truth and their power as we move up to 2027, which is an exciting time because projectors will gain more and more and more recognition coming up to this time point.
How incredible is that you've had this dream and you've gone, all right, this is it, this is the feeling I've got, this is what I'm going to do, and it's just sparked this beautiful movement, the projector movement. And now there are literally like thousands of people along with you on this journey, all from human design. It blows my mind, and I'm just so grateful for this system. And yeah, I just think that's absolutely incredible. I love that you followed your intuition there, because you could have easily just gone, I don't even know what that's about. Like, no, that doesn't sound right. Or, it was just so in alignment for you, and you just followed through with it, and it led you to a really beautiful place.
Yes, I'm grateful for that dream, and there's been other dreams that I'm grateful for as well. But that's a beautiful dream to have, and what it opened up, and the movement of energy from there.
Yeah, incredible. All right, I'm going to ask you 2 more things before we wrap this episode up. And we're definitely going to have to get you back on the podcast, because there's so many more questions that I want to ask you about. But I would love to know, as projectors, we have the signature of success in our life. So I'd really love to know, what does success mean to you?
Yeah, beautiful question. I think initially success for many people initially means more of a external thing. So externally, success in obviously business, and financially and recognition in career. And, I think that's the standard notion of success. And that is a part of being a projector, absolutely, because we carry a lot of wisdom and a lot of value for, what is money? Money is an exchange. It's an agreed upon exchange of energy. So if I am going to come into your house and clean the sink, how much energy is that worth? You might pay me $2. If I'm going to come in and clean the whole house, paint the house, redo the floorboards, that's a lot of energy that's being invested. That might be $25,000. So it's just an exchange of energy, and projectors have the ability to carry a frequency and offer an exchange that is beyond like an hourly rate, because it's so valuable, like something that truly comes from authentic wisdom and is shared at the right time, that could be worth to another person, maybe a generator who's moving in one direction, that might shift their whole life, and it might be so valuable. So success, there's definitely a part of that is about being in alignment with your career, with your passion, being recognized for that, and receiving financial compensation for that. That is a part of success. As I've moved through, success has deepened specifically to the energetic movement and liberation within the body. So within human design, you have different centers, and whether it's from childhood or our parents or ancestors or, past lives or impact we had when we were a teenager or whatever, like energy within the body gets stuck. And for a projector, it's really, really important that the flow of energy through these centers is moving well, because however our internal world is processing and moving creates our external world. So for me, like, success will obviously mean slightly different things depending on your human design chart. Like for me, knowing that I've got all these open centers, knowing my main gate is intuitive clarity, knowing my incarnation cross is penetration 3. So I'm here to be very direct with my words and hear the voice of truth or infinite intelligence and communicate that with the channel of transformation coming from gate 54, the gate of drive. There's a lot of energy from my root center. So success for me would be to inwardly powerfully transform myself so I can be an example of transformation and healing for others and guide others in that direction, using one of the greatest gifts that I have, which is my intuitive clarity. So that, like, just in a couple of sentences, like that could be how success would look to me, because success is being in alignment with what infinite intelligence, God, the creator, the blueprint that I was given would be to reduce the resistance of that and drop down from the mind and drop into my actual truth, and then listen and then move from that space. And then, of course, there will be financial reward. There'll be, you obviously be doing what you love, your career. It also would include relationships. Externally, just things are flowing. So success is a big thing. And for projectors, we have the ability to move into deep levels of success when we align ourselves with our authentic truth.
Yeah, I love that. The main thing that I got from that particular answer was that focus inwards, and then, the external things sort of come after that. But I mean, that is not a typical societal narrative, is it? To focus inwards. It's all about the external success and how's the business going and how many cars do you have? And, it's like, what material things have you got? They're usually a marker in society of how well we are doing, and that we're trying to prove ourselves that, hey, I've got all these things, so I'm doing really well. But I love that message that for projectors and yourself, especially, that internal journey is just so powerfully potent that we cannot just leave that to the wayside. It's something that is so important to us as projectors.
Yes. And as we move up to 2027 and beyond, no longer is success going to be external markers and validation. Like if you go back 10 years ago, okay, if someone has a Ferrari or a Porsche, people genuinely think that is success. In 10 years from now, if someone has a Ferrari or a Porsche, but at the same time they're inwardly disturbed and the energy is just not moving through their system well, that's very obviously not going to be a success. So the world is changing, and the markers of success are changing as well. So as a projector, if you're listening to this, doing the work now before 2027, deconditioning, aligning yourself, will be the most valuable thing and the biggest gift you can give yourself and the world at this time. And on that topic, the projector movement does have a specific training and course called the Deconditioning course, and it's a very in-depth course that goes into the nervous system and repatterning the inward journey of the physical, the mind, the emotional, and the spiritual, specifically for projectors. And that is a beautiful step in that direction, because once you align the inner world, the outer world always falls into place, and pretty much everyone is trying to do the opposite, and that is like pushing a boulder up a hill and you just get squashed every time.
I definitely resonate with doing things backwards. For so many years, I would focus on the external and think that would shift the internal world, or that it would make me happy or whatever. And it's so apparent that it just doesn't work that way for projectors. And as you just said, we have that deconditioning course. And I will just say, I've journeyed through that course myself twice as an outsider. I'm putting that in air quotes. And it is so powerful. So I highly recommend, if anyone is wanting to start that internal work and you don't know where to start and you're thinking, gosh, it's also overwhelming. Like, what does it even look like? That course is so beautiful, and it's truly transformational if you let yourself actually do the work. It's a really powerful course to take.
Totally.
Yes. All right. One last question for you, Charlie. I would love to know, what is your favorite thing about being a projector?
Good question. What's my favorite thing about being a projector? I think knowing that being in alignment, a big part of that is getting to learn things that I'm passionate about. I love doing that. So I love that aspect of being a projector. Getting to play, prioritizing the frequency of play, whether that's, it's different obviously for everyone, but for me, whether it's just listening to music and moving my body, whether it's playing frisbee or playing some form of sport, like going and just shooting basketball hoops, or that always aligns me to my true frequency. And it's interesting as well, when I do those things, I often get a lot of invitations, even specifically when I'm doing them. I might check my email after or something, and it's like, so when I'm aligning myself to that frequency, that's a really positive thing. And I just love to do that and bring play and joy, and knowing that's in alignment for a projector, that's beautiful. And then also allowing myself to have downtime and to rest and relax, and once again know that that is in alignment with being a projector, rather than having the guilt around that and like, oh, I really should be working and just keep going and push myself and push through this because I just need to hustle. And, you know, maybe more like a Tony Robbins, who's a manifesting generator, maybe with 8 centers or something like that, to find, yeah, for him, if he's, you know, just focusing on play and rest and, you know, these things, that's not in alignment with him. So lucky I do like to have my downtime and relax and deeply nourish myself inwardly, and also enjoy myself and move my body and play, especially as a splenic projector. Being in the body is really a beautiful thing. So there's a few aspects that I really love about it, and also knowing that 2027 is coming up and projectors are here to be the guides and the leaders of the new paradigm, and having that connection to infinite intelligence to receive messages to then guide humanity in the way that is being called forth now is also really exciting.
Yeah, beautiful. So you've really plugged yourself into that projector plug, which I absolutely adore. And I think a lot of the time we can kind of pick up this human design narrative or rhetoric that, yeah, human, like projectors are here to study, rest, and play, and we add them to a list like it's a chore. Like if we're doing it and we've ticked it off, then I've been a very good projector for the day, you know. But it's really nice to hear in your voice that it's coming from like a deep inner need, and there's just this confidence around why you do it is because you love the projector essence, and you're not fearfully moving through it and thinking, oh, I have to rest now, or I have to go and play some basketball now. Like it's very intentional for you, which I think is a really big piece of the puzzle as well.
Yeah, no, I love being a projector. I'm very happy that
Excellent.
I am a projector, and when I was born, I came out with forceps, and if I was left in there 2 or 3 more hours, I would have been a generator. So I was ripped out as a projector.
You
And
arrived exactly when you were meant to.
yeah, at the time I probably wasn't too happy about it, but now I'm pretty grateful.
Very good. All right, Charlie, I'm going to wrap things up there, but I have just jotted down so many more questions that have come to mind as you've been speaking. So, everyone, I'm sure you've loved listening to a little bit of Charlie's journey, and I will definitely be getting him back on the podcast to chat more, and we can feed off more of this beautiful splenic intuition that you have, Charlie. So, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me for the first time. I'm excited to share more whenever you feel like it's valuable. And if you're listening to this, thank you for your time, and welcome to the projector movement. And yeah, I'm happy that people are receiving a lot from this movement, and wishing you all the best.